This is a WTVA 9 News Severe Weather Update.
Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here alongside our Joel Young, John DeLusick, and of course Chelsea Brown and Bryce Jones out in the field. Tornado warning first of the day issued. We expect there will be more. This is in effect on the Alabama side until 2:30, on the Mississippi side until 1:45, and it's for the same circulation here in Noxubee County near the Paulette community. The way these have worked today is they have strengthened quickly and produced strong, in some cases long-lived circulations and tornadoes. So Paulette, that is our concern that we could be dealing with for you in Cooksville, locations near McLeod. I say first of the day, you had one earlier that Joel tracked earlier on in the McLeod area. So this one has a more significant and developing rotation. So if you live here to the east of this near McLeod and along Highway 14 and of course into Pickens County as well, we need to be in the middle of a sturdy structure. We talked about this earlier. You needed to be getting nearby so you could get directly in it. Now is the time you get into that structure. A small windowless room, wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect yourself from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. The reason this has been issued is because a Doppler radar indicated rotation that is strengthening, as you can see there near Paulette and Cooksville. I'm going to circle this on Storm Track Doppler radar to give you the latest location on where we're showing this. I'll pull down our tornado safety rules to do that first. And so that's about where we're looking at there, right along Paulette Road. This storm, as many storms have been today, moving in the neighborhood of about 40 to 50 miles per hour. I'm going to track these faster maybe than they're moving. I want to give you as much of a heads up, get you there as quickly as we can. But we're looking at Cooksville in 3 minutes, Dancy in 8 minutes, and Cochran Community in 12 minutes. I'm going to go a little more fine scale on this for a moment here. We're going to put on a few other locations because this is an extremely strong circulation that has popped up here. Hickory Grove Church, if you live near that, if you live near Cluster Church there, Hebron Methodist Church, Cochran, and Cochran Recreation Area. This is a strong, intensifying circulation on this thunderstorm, and that's the concern, that these wrap up very quickly. In fact, our Storm Track Doppler radar indicating the wind change right here between Paulette and Cooksville is now at 117 miles per hour. Though we are looking high, typically when that happens, we are talking about significant tornadoes in the process of generating. We're going to check for tornado debris, and I'm going to have to kind of check a couple of things back and forth here as we go. I don't have tornado debris, thankfully, at this moment. And if you'll be okay with me kind of popping back and forth, my circulation matches where we would expect it. So right here between Paulette and Cooksville, a tornado in the development phase and potentially strengthening as we speak. There's not a ton of lead time with these today because of how strong and how quickly they can strengthen. By the way, Bryce Jones is in the Brooksville area. I don't think we're going to get him in position. I want to keep him probably where he is. I can talk to you on the phone here on Bryce. We're going to look at your video for a moment here where you're at, and while we're talking to you, well, first off, where are you at?
We're sitting in Brooksville right now, right in 145 south, right on the highway.
Okay.
We're northwest of the storm. We're about 15 to 17 miles northwest of the tornado warning. Yeah, we're looking toward the southeast, and right now we're just seeing pretty much just the strong winds. I know that tornado warning just popped up. We don't have a visual on it, of course. The rain is coming down in sheets, and lots of thunder, lightning, winds, easily 60 miles an hour at least.
Okay, so even on your part, we're talking about severe thunderstorm winds, and that's what the rest of this warning has. Bryce, stay safe. We're watching a few other thunderstorms on you. I'm going to keep your audio up. We're going to take the video down for a moment. Briefly, because we do have a tornado potentially on the ground at this moment, here is the track. Here are some locations. Cooksville, Dancy, next 5 minutes to 6 minutes or so. I want to keep that up for a moment as we kind of look at what else you have, Bryce, while we still have you here, because these are going to move quickly. They're going to, we don't want them to surprise us. Your storm's there. There's just a lot of storms, but that one that's north of you there, by the way, Bryce, still has some structure to it, just north of Brooksville. The circulation to be about halfway, probably track about halfway between you and Artesia. Watch that one closely. I don't want to move too much because the storm back toward Louisville is also one that's entering that environment where it's showing more signs of rotation. So please be safe, and we'll talk to you here in a little bit. All right?
All right, thank you.
That's our meteorologist, Bryce Jones, right now in Noxubee County. Because of the strength of these storms, in some cases, I might move him and try to get him in a better position. It's not worth taking that kind of a risk now. He's going to watch that storm up here closer to the Columbus area as that kind of works its way more toward Columbus. But because we have a significant tornado possibly on the ground at this moment here, we're having to watch this extremely closely. So a very tight circulation, and sometimes this mispositioned blob. See that green area you see there near Lou Henry Lockett Road, just to the west of the Alabama-Mississippi state line? By the way, in the back, we need to be on all the stations. I don't know if we've clarified that. Okay. When we sometimes get this green blob like what you see there, that is sometimes precedes our debris signature. Not always, but sometimes that can. So we're going to treat that as though that could be a tornado on the ground at this moment because of all the concerns we have today. I think I would hope you would join me in that. So we're looking at Highway 14 right on the Alabama-Mississippi state line, less than 3 minutes, less than 3 miles away. These storms are going to move pretty close to a mile a minute. That is extremely fast, and that's something you can't get out of the way. Even our experienced storm chasers, we're not going to try to get them anywhere near the path of these if we can at all possible. Now, Joel, if you will look at this, John as well, up on the big screen there, you can see right at the end of that arrow, we have our what could be a bad radar image there at the same spot. I don't know for sure. Maybe that might also be a new precipitation scan there. I'm trying to see if we have maybe some debris at that spot there. I can't say for sure that is, but we will know for sure here in the next few moments as we get a new scan in whether or not that is tornado debris. So let's go ahead and go on the wind mode here, which should update here in a couple moments. I think the big takeaway is this: if you live in Macon, you're okay. Severe thunderstorm warning, 60+ mile/hour winds possibility for you, but this circulation out here south of X Prairie at this instant, very near that where Highway 14 Mississippi becomes Highway 32 in Alabama, and so this is definitely something. It is heading in the direction of Aliceville, and we need to be making sure folks in advance know that this, with the kind of tornadoes we see today, sometimes there'll be a potential they sit down and stay down. So Aliceville, we're now within 18 minutes for you. Dancy 5 minutes, Cochrane 9 minutes, Saps 22 minutes. And Dilberg in about 24 minutes. Let's go ahead and reset here for just a moment. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Joel Young, John DeLusick. The potential today is that we will have thunderstorms that produce tornadoes. Some could be long-lived, some could be strong. If tornadoes form today, high-end tornadoes, strong damaging tornadoes is the likelihood, and this one is stronger than anything we saw last week. It's not even close. Different category here. So we need to make sure that you are in a sturdy structure in the middle of the lowest floor. If you live near the Alabama-Mississippi state line, if you live near Alabama Highway 32, this is crossing the state line as we speak, moving toward Cochrane, moving toward Aliceville, moving toward Dilberg, is going to track along, I believe that's Highway 17, Alabama Highway 17 into Aliceville. Let's go ahead and look at that circulation here. As you can see, very strong. Let's check out that debris. I can't confirm it at this point here. We're at a distance where that's difficult. I do have some of the blues there that sometimes can code in wrong. I don't really want to wait until we get debris here to really emphasize the significance of this situation. I don't think it's necessarily, say again?
I think it's just so far away from the radar. You're going to have a tough time seeing it.
I agree. Our meteorologist Joel Young will pop his microphone up here for a second. And I have to agree with what you're saying. Go ahead, Joel.
The point I'm trying to make is you're looking from radar sites, one in Columbus, one in Jackson. If you're going to see debris on this, it's going to be after it has reached an intensity that you're seeing that debris lofted so high in the air. Bottom line is, if you did have a weak tornado on the ground, and you very well might, and I don't even want to call them weak. I mean,
if you have a tornado on the ground, yes.
If you have one on the ground, you're not going to know until well after it's on the ground, Matt.
Okay, Joel, we'll go ahead and pop your mic on. We'll leave it on. We'll unmute in the background. And we'll make sure that we have, if possible,
if it was muted.
Okay, there we go. And we'll have them mute it and unmute it in the back there, so we can go through that clarification here. But we believe this to be a tornado at this instant with extremely strong rotation right along the Mississippi-Alabama state line, moving out of Noxubee County, moving into Pickens County, Alabama. Checking debris, that's not something we're necessarily going to be able to confirm, and we have to react based upon thinking that we could, we'll get confirmation after, and it does you no good if it's moving right into your area. So at this minute, we're saying 5 minutes now into Cochrane, Aliceville 14 minutes, Cunningham in 19 minutes, and 20 minutes into the Dilberg community. A tornado warning in effect for Pickens County, Alabama until 2:30 p.m. Let's give a couple of all clears here for a moment. I would say if you live on the Mississippi side, obviously to the west of the Mississippi-Alabama state line, if you give me 2 minutes right at the state line, you're fine. But most of the locations out here, McLeod, Paulette, Cooksville, you're all out of this tornado danger at this moment. Still strong winds, still lots and lots of lightning, but at least that is one thing that we can say positive for you. Clearly, it is a different story up here. And as we watch this encroach upon Aliceville, let's talk for a moment here about unsafe places. If you live near Cunningham and only in Aliceville, we still have some moments ahead here. Cars and trucks and mobile homes, we cannot be in those. That means we need to be in a site-built structure, preferably with a reinforced safe room or an underground safe room. And if we don't have that, we have to do the best we can. Blankets, pillows, a helmet, shoes that have a hard sole on them. We need to have those things in place. You need to keep that phone charged. This could be a very significant tornado. That is the concern when we have these today. And if your signal goes out, you can stream us live at WTVA.com/live, Facebook, Twitter. We also have plenty of information going on those platforms there. But please, we beg you, take this seriously today. That circulation now just along Alabama Highway 32, west of the 32-17 split, just southwest of the Cochran area along Nanny Clark Road. We expect it'll be near Cochran Access Road within 3 minutes if it continues at its current speed of about 50 miles per hour. Looking at the debris mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, and we're going to go back and forth here. Reflectivity, wind, debris. It's not inconceivable that this right there, okay, going back one scan, that was shows us that near the Alabama state line we had at least a brief tornado touchdown associated with this. So now we can confirm that we have had a tornado that has at least at some point touched down with this thunderstorm now moving in the direction of Cochran, because you see that blue and blackish sort of blob there. That is tornado debris. It's not perfect on the location, but that should be enough information if you live in Cochran to let you know you need to be in that tornado safe place. I don't still show it necessarily at this point, but it has to loft it up fairly close to a mile, if not more, at this distance to even show up here. So we're going to go by the wind difference here right near Clark Nanny Road. We do expect to see an update very close to Hudson Drive there near the 1732 split within the next few moments here. A tornado we believe has been on the ground very recently and could potentially be attempting to set back down, or might still be on the ground. Frankly, radar is not perfect, and we just have to make that assessment that it's possible it could still be on the ground at this instant here. Current time is 1:41 p.m. I want to back off because the thought process is today storms could very quickly ratchet up and produce damaging returns. And what I am concerned about here, we might want to touch back with Bryce. This thunderstorm here east of Crawford showing more signs of rotation, nowhere near what we have going on down south into Pickens County, but the rotation increasing on this one near Columbus as well. It is Columbus fortunate that this is not clean inflow south. There's a lot of storms that messes up the lower level winds, but I'm going to track that rotation into Columbus nonetheless. I'm going to give you kind of a time frame here. I want to make sure that we have as much heads up as we can just in case, because there isn't always a ton of lead time. 13 minutes into Columbus, that rotation part. New Hope 15 minutes, Lake Lowndes 16 minutes, McCrary there 19 minutes, Stafford 20 minutes, and Steens in 22 minutes. Our meteorologist Joel Young here, as we continue to work this as part of a team, and we'll use the side shot and that double box as necessary with information coming in. Joel?
Yeah, Matt, you were just talking about that rotation there, that circulation near Artesia in the Crawford area, I believe you were just talking about. We actually have live video if you'd like to take this. This is from our North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters, Stan Duro, along with, I believe, Jonathan there is with him. Blanking on his last name there, but they are both on Highway 45 looking at that. You have that video there behind me. That appears to be 45. Now, at one point, they were pulled over at the crossover there at Crawford.
Okay.
They may have turned around. It's hard for me to tell.
Okay.
Judging by radar, assuming.
We'll pull Joel down. We'll keep his audio up, and we'll keep the video. I'll keep the video up here.
Hard to say.
If we can we pull Joel's? There we are. And I'm going to keep that up small. And then we'll kind of keep that third element there. But that is I'm going to step over here for just a moment here. This is that part of the thunderstorm that they are trying to track, and I bet they're trying to weasel their way down here and to get closer to that rotating thunderstorm. We'll find out where they are and let me know on that here in a moment. Let's come back here to our tornado-warned thunderstorm down here in Pickens County, Alabama. The rotation on this is not as pronounced as it was a few minutes ago when it looked like it produced that brief tornado touchdown. Looking at the rainfall mode, I'm going to go ahead and circle about where we think that circulation is. Cochran, we need to be in a tornado-safe place. We're obviously moving toward Aliceville and Dilburg at this time. The wind mode, pretty close on that spot. It does not line up perfectly with the rainfall, and at this instant, I do not have tornado debris. So that is something that over the last few minutes here has changed as we define this. We briefly had a situation where we believe that the tornado was confirmed by debris on Doppler radar. We did not have it spotted. Rotation was certainly there. But when we have these that prove that they can do something, and we do believe this one probably briefly put down a tornado touchdown, that means it has the potential to do it again. And so with all the assessments we make here behind the scenes, I hope you will use judgment and be careful and assume that this could either A, still be a tornado on the ground, which is absolutely a possibility, or B, could be about to produce another one there. Now we're showing it just north of the Cochrane community. That's a fortuitous sign for folks who live in Aliceville proper, not necessarily for those who live in the Garden community. I'm going to make sure we keep Aliceville in this track here. We're now down to 7 minutes for you. McMullen, 7 minutes. Cunningham, 12 minutes. Dilberg in 13 minutes. Hickory in 14 minutes and 16 minutes into Lois Springs. So this is a circulation that continues to show up fairly strong on Storm Track Doppler radar. When I look at the wind mode, the wind change up just about 90 miles per hour. For me, a lot of times this distance, when it's 90 and above, and some of the other things we see, we assume it's a tornado on the ground. It's right there on the verge of that threshold. So I hope you will join me in assuming that this could be a tornado that, if it strikes your location, could be one that causes damage. As you can see here, this tornado warning, as we mentioned, 2:30, radar indicated the description from the National Weather Service there in Birmingham with a movement northeast at 40 miles per hour. Now, I have been tracking it slightly faster than 40. I'm going to drop my speed. I've had it close to 50 miles per hour. I'm going to drop it down to 40 miles per hour as we kind of look ahead as this is crossing, I believe that is the Tennessee-Tom Bigby waterway there. And so as we're looking here for the Garden community, we're now down to about 7 minutes for you based on its present location. Tornado that briefly touched down could do the same thing again here in Pickens County, Alabama. So we need to make sure that folks who might be traveling along Alabama Highway 14 between Pickensville and Aliceville, they don't need to be traveling. You know, somebody that maybe commutes along that highway for work, for whatever reason, they don't need to be there. This circulation is intensifying more. And we never see a tornado at really any distance on radar. What we see is the rotation aloft, and then we can tell how that translates down to the ground. So while I might not have a tornado for sure on this, it is in a strengthening phase, and the potential is there that these storms today will produce violent, long track tornadoes that could cause significant loss of life if not respected. So let's respect it. Correlation coefficient, which allows us to look at the potential for this to have tornado debris. We don't have it at this instance here. This is continuing to get a little more organized in the rainfall mode of the way that's wrapping back around. So near, I believe that's County Road 78. Near County Road 78 in Pickens County, Alabama. I show a circulation there that we believe could be a tornado strengthening again, if not on the ground at this exact moment. It's going to be a close call for Aliceville. I'll get you in the track of this here in just a moment. McMillan 4 minutes, Cunningham 10 minutes, Dilberg as we look toward 11 minutes. No. So that was my wife asking me behind the scenes here if we can send the kids home. And that, I think, is something we need to address because we have a lot of viewers that live outside of the specific spot we're talking about there. But we have these thunderstorms back here that we have our meteorologist Chelsea Brown watching closely from Houston. Some other thunderstorms that have moved up briefly prompted a severe thunderstorm warning for a few locations. We are still watching locations back in the Mississippi Delta. This section, the kind of northwestern half of our area at this point here, we did a lot of 3D graphics last night about what we call the cap. That cap is holding in this zone here. But at 1:47, it could absolutely break. And if it did and something punched through, we would expect intense development very quickly. Our meteorologist Joel Young helping us on a lot of different ways to monitor things related to this storm system. I'd like to bring him in now, if I could, here to talk about kind of what you're looking at there, Joel.
Matt, what you were actually just alluding to is the cap, this inversion in the atmosphere back in the Delta that's basically holding storms from blowing up right now. The storms back in the Delta, though, at the same time, of course, they haven't fired up yet. But what I'm looking at, Matt, is is visible satellite of this area, and I'm seeing a lot more cumulus. A lot of times what you look for on visible satellite, and I can show you that, but I want to make sure that we stay focused on this tornado warning that's in effect right here to my right, or to your right, as you can see there, around Aliceville. Matt, at some point here in a moment, I want us to pull up visible satellite and get a look at, or you can just look at it behind the scenes.
Let me get one more track here on this, because this has strengthened a little bit more. I mean, well, you can't see. Let's drop Joel. Let's keep his audio up for just a moment here. But hold
that thought. Just do what you're doing, but hold the thought that I was just making.
Okay, yeah, and we'll pull that up and we'll look at it. So we're now at 95 miles per hour. We said 90 was that threshold. Let's look for debris on this. I don't necessarily have anything that I can confirm debris, but I can say that this is strengthening. We should get a new scan here that puts us very near the McMullen community here in the next couple of moments. So this is one we have to treat extremely seriously. We've already had confirmed reports of significant tornadoes. There's one going south of the Birmingham area right now with catastrophic as the damage tag coming from the National Weather Service there. They're also watching this storm. So I anticipate we're going to get a few less updates on this maybe than what we usually do, because they're looking at a situation where there could be a massive loss of life there. Getting reports from law enforcement that this could have briefly touched down in Pickens County. As we mentioned, we have to then treat this as a situation where it could do it again. So as we're looking here near Bradford Road, just south of Mississippi Highway 14, a rotation on storm track Doppler radar that could be a tornado. Now less than 1 minute from crossing Alabama Highway 14. So if you know folks in Aliceville, they need to be in their tornado shelter. Call them. But if they're in a car, they absolutely don't need to travel on Alabama Highway 14 between Pickensville and Aliceville at this time. I'm going to get a storm track on this, and then we're going to go back and check what Joel was talking about here in just a moment. I'm going to put on a storm track that has a lot of little locations on it that hopefully are churches and other things that you might notice that maybe I haven't visited in my time. So we show Beasley, Lois Springs. That does not look like it showed really. Here, let's try this one more time here and see if that will, there we go. That'll be the one that has everything on it. So the Garden Baptist Church at 1:51, current time is 1:50. McMullen at 1:52, Mount Hebron Church at 1:55, Union Chapel at 1:57, Cunningham at 1:58, Dilberg at 1:59, Mount Sinai Church there in Pickens County at 1:59, and Beasley at 2 o'clock, Mount Calvary Church at 2 o'clock, Lois Springs at 2:02, Pickens Academy at 2:04. Now, let's bring Joel back. You're going to have to loop me back in because we were working on something behind the scenes. You want to see visible satellite picture.
To the west, that area where we're looking at the cap. Back in the Delta, some in the western half of our area, I'm definitely seeing a little bit more cumulus development there over parts of Calhoun, down in that area. We're seeing some showers that are developing and some thunderstorms as well. Also seeing some back toward Greenville, and those are areas that
have seen sunshine.
That allows, thunderstorms to eventually develop once you break that cap. And now, honestly, let's just go back to that storm around Greenville. And I know that's way out there, but is that something that could break the cap?
Oh, it absolutely is. It's in an environment where there's a little more forcing back here, and it takes an extra push to get that to happen. So that is what we're looking at here. That extra push, I don't know if it's there. We would expect to see some of the deepest, darkest returns of the pinks and purples when it really breaks through. That one's not there yet. It could at some point. And really none of these back north and west of here have that real threat at this point. I mean, even the ones we're looking at in Tupelo, we might swing that camera around to the east if we could. Even those at this instant here remain still small enough that I don't think we're worrying about those yet. So we are concentrating on a significant storm that's had strong rotation that has weakened a little bit now in the last 5 minutes or so. But these will be what we call cyclical thunderstorms. So they strengthen to the point they try to produce a tornado, and either A, they keep it on the ground because it's a strong enough, effective enough thunderstorm, or B, it wraps it up and tries to process again. And so that's what this is doing. It is going through what we call a cycle. That's why we call it a cyclical storm. It's now north, I would say, of Alabama Highway 14, very near, I have to look at that a little closer on here. I believe that's Franconia Road that leads up there toward Carrollton. That's where I put our circulation right now. The rainfall mode does not look as organized as well. That's a good sign. I'd love to see that continue. But I would have it just the northeast of the Garden community in McMillan is where we'd have our circulation right now. Our meteorologist, John Delusic.
Aliceville, excuse me.
Okay.
They do confirm a tornado on the ground.
From law enforcement?
Yes, it says, quote, "We are getting reports from law enforcement. I was a confirmed tornado on the ground near Aliceville."
Okay. So and that would have been within about the last 5 minutes.
This is from media up there. I mean.
Yes. Okay. So we are looking at that then, confirmed, at least briefly, a confirmed tornado on the ground there north of the Aliceville area. Approaching Carrollton is still where we have this circulation. So let's go and pop the circulation back on the map there. And if we could, we'll use the clipboard. But we'll go ahead and show where that is on there, and then let's track this at about that same 40 miles per hour. I'm going to keep Carrollton in this track. It might pass just slightly south. We're Dillsburg now. We're at 3 minutes for you. Beasley in 4 minutes, Lois Springs in 6 minutes, and Carrollton in 8 minutes. This is rotation that has, on a couple of occasions, looked like it could have produced brief tornadoes. Brief doesn't mean weak. Brief means short-lived. And the possibility today is that we have strong, long-lived tornadoes. Luckily, we have not had that combination, but storms go through a life cycle, they strengthen, and this is in an environment where it has more of a potential to strengthen, because where we have this here, there's a fairly open area down here. Yeah, there's some lighter rain, but there's some fairly open area down here for the winds to move right out of the Gulf of Mexico and into this. When they have an open track, that enhances their tornado potential somewhat, and that is our concern with this. Let's wind this out for the region that we're looking at here. Continue to watch this. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, alongside our meteorologist Joel Young, John DeLusick. Current time is 1:55 p.m. And we're looking at a tornado warning that's been issued until 2:30 p.m. for Pickens County, Alabama. We believe we've had at least 1 point in the cycle of this storm where it has produced at least a brief tornado touchdown. So we're trying to get more information from the folks there in both Noxubee and Pickens counties. They're working on that behind the scenes. Our WTVA 9 newsroom is doing that. But at this point, at least we have not had reports to confirm that kind of information there. But we're certainly watching that closely. So where are we at with this? We're north of Aliceville. We're southwest of Carrollton, which means if you do have an Aliceville address, we still probably on the north side of town need to have you in that tornado safe place. Not probably, do need to have you in that tornado safe place. But this is encroaching upon the city of Carrollton at a speed at about 40 miles per hour. With me today is, of course, our meteorologist John DeLusick and Joel Young. The rotation continuing to get a little bit more organized. Joel, did I see you? And we'll go ahead and pop Joel's mic off if we could, please.
I was just informed that evidently we are having some trouble with the WTVA.com live stream.
Okay.
I was told that on our Facebook page, and I believe this is going to be the WTVA 9 News Facebook page,
okay.
We are live there.
Okay, so we're working behind the scenes to try to get that up. I'll tell you this, what we're going to do is we'll probably end up taking down the Facebook stream as soon as we can get this warning under control, and we'll get everything rebooted on that. As we've said over and over again, multiple ways to find out if you're in a tornado warning and where the most dangerous part of that thunderstorm is, just in case even R1 from time to time has an issue. So Facebook Live, we're still there. WTVA weather and news apps, they're working to get that back up and going. So if you lose power, Facebook Live, search WTVA 9 News and you will find it there. I'm on Facebook Live here as well, but I think the angle on that camera, you hear my voice better than you see the video. Looking over there at that. So Beasley, we're at 1 minute for you. Lois Spring now, we're at 3 minutes, and Carrollton in 5 minutes. This circulation very close to you. It might stay maybe just ever so slightly south of town, but it's definitely getting more organized in the last few minutes here. Let's go to the rainfall mode. Does not have quite the same level of organization. Let's look for debris, and thankfully we don't have it. So we're in a watching and waiting and hoping stage, but that does not mean that it will stay at this point. So let's go ahead and I'm going to clear off our storm track, and I want to make sure we have the angle on this correct. Yeah, I still say south side of Carrollton there. We need to be prepared that this could be still trying to produce a tornado. So we mentioned a lot with 14. Same thing goes for 17. If you're in Carrollton, clearly, tornado safe place. If we're down in Aliceville, we do not need to be traveling northward on 17. Your phone call to someone who might be on that highway could save their life, because if this is going to produce another tornado within about the next 3 minutes, it will go through that cycle where it's strengthening. We mentioned it produces a tornado or tries, that wraps around, gets cut off by cold air, weakens, and then it tries to do it again. It's in that trying to do it again phase. So we expect that either A, we're at the peak now, or B, the next scan will have us with a tornado on the ground. So considering those possibilities, I would hope and pray that you would go ahead and take this seriously and make sure that you call somebody and make sure they are in their tornado safe place and not traveling along Alabama Highway 17. I now put our circulation pretty much right along Alabama Highway 17, just west of County Mill Road, just east of Mount Calvary Road. And as you can see, Franchione Road, there south of Carrollton is where this is at this moment. So Carrollton, please be in your tornado safe place. And of course, as we always mention, that is the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a place where we want to make sure that you can wrap yourself up in blankets and pillows with a helmet, a small windowless room. So we're thinking down low, underneath something strong if possible, because there's no guarantees that these, even if they are brief tornadoes, will be weak tornadoes. And there's no guarantees that these stay brief tornadoes. So let's stay there until we can give you the all clear. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation that we're looking at out of this at this time. We have briefly had radar confirm a tornado earlier on with a brief tornado debris signature. Let's check for that now. Storm track Doppler radar not showing tornado debris at this instant here, thankfully. But what it is showing is strong rotation, about the same levels where we had it a minute or two ago. But the location slightly farther north and east, I put it just to the west, and pretty much in the next 10 to 15 seconds crossing Alabama Highway 17, a mile or two south of Carrollton. So this is an extremely close call for the southern city grid and southeast side there of Carrollton. So please be in that tornado safe place. And with that in mind, as we widen things just a little bit more, let's go ahead and make the same argument, warning, suggestion for folks that are out here on Alabama Highway 86. We need to, again, between Carrollton, there on the east side of town, and Gordo, make sure that folks are not traveling along Alabama Highway 86. I know we're making these same phone calls. We're doing these same things over and over again. Please call somebody that might be on this highway. Really, any of these in Pickens County, they need to be off the highway. But if you know somebody that's out there, we're now less than 6 minutes away from it moving through those locations. What we believe could be strengthening once again to try to produce a tornado. Looking at that latest wind signature there, I would actually, honestly, I think more easily define it looking at the rainfall mode. I would put it just on the south city grid of Carrollton, where our tornado is believed at this moment. The specific road that's popping on there, let's see if I can get it to do that specific one there. I believe it is, let's see if it'll pop on, Lipsey Road. So Lipsey Road there at the intersection of Alabama Highway 17, where we believe our tornado is at this moment, if it is on the ground. Now, slightly east of that, near Latham Road, just south of Mississippi Highway 86. Let's look at the wind mode there. Not quite matching up with the rainfall at this instant, but of course these bits of data come in a cycle, so we need to clearly be in that tornado safe place if we live east of Carrollton, of course in Carrollton proper. Let's bring in our meteorologist Joel Young if we could. He is looking at the latest on this information. And Joel, what are you seeing at this moment here?
Yeah, I'm in discussion with Bryce Jones. He is our weekend meteorologist. He's one of our storm spotters who is down in Noxubee County right now. We're trying to determine, does he need to try to get behind that and try to get on some of the damage reports from that, or should we hold on?
Let's ask this. Do we have legitimate damage reports coming in on it? I'm
not sure that we have anything.
Let's make sure that someone in the newsroom is calling. If you would, Joel, you might have to run over there and double check. Make sure someone in the newsroom, I have not heard about Pickens or Noxubee counties. Joel, if you'll run over there and ask them and make sure that we're looking at that. If we get confirmed damage, then we can rotate him.
In the meantime, we need to be checking those storms back in the Delta. The one around Greenville may be.
Okay, we'll look at that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, and then we'll have a better idea what we need to do with Bryce. So notice here on this wide shot, before we bring it right back in there, Pickens County, how there's this thing that's happening. Bigger, slightly smaller, smallest, basically non-existent. This is that capping inversion. It's the big caveat. Strong tornadoes, long-lived tornadoes, the whole thing. But this could have been the protector, or it could have been something that held the lid on until it just blew off. Right now, it's protecting, but there's no guarantees that continues. We have plenty of projections that break that cap and produce tornadoes back in this part of the area. We've been fortunate to this point, so by no means are you over back there, but we are concentrating on what looks to be a strong rotating thunderstorm that potentially has produced at least one tornado with damage. We're working to confirm whether that's just trees, whether that is buildings and something else. So we don't have that confirmation yet, but what we do have is a circulation here near Carrollton. As we go kind of back and forth on the rainfall mode here, I would put it very near Alabama Highway 86, just east of Carrollton. So it's gone a little more north in the last few minutes here. We had it kind of coming across here about a mile or so east of where it looks like it might have crossed. It's not a tight pixel-to-pixel circulation on this where we have it. And we do not have tornado debris looking at that. But we're definitely going to continue to have to watch this one. I'm going to try to shift this and look at this from the Birmingham radar site for a moment. We're going to just pop that up here. It's going to be a little more diffuse, but then we can also check the wind. It's a more broad rotation on that. At the exact moment, the folks in the National Weather Service in Birmingham mentioned that, a broadening rotation. So we will have to see if this trend continues. At some point, this tornado warning will be lifted. But it has broadened a few times and then tightened back up. So we can't make the assumption that it will continue that direction there. But we're definitely watching south and east of Carrollton. Okay. So as I was critical a second ago of our storm track, looking at this here on the last couple of scans, while it looked like it kind of pulled there, I think our circulation is probably right there just south of Alabama Highway 86. It's really kind of tracked the last couple minutes very near that highway, if not just a little south near Marvin Chapel Road as it works its way toward Gordo. We have not had Gordo in a bunch of the storm tracks here. Let's make sure we get it into one now and get you a hard time and then a relative time. So based on the speed, we're still assuming about 40 miles per hour for how fast this is moving forward there. And so as we track that into the Gordo area, I'd have that there within about the next, we show 2:17. So current time is 2:05, 2:17. If you know some folks back there, that's about the time that US 82, a much more well-traveled roadway, that this circulation would cross US 82 at about 2:17, between 2:14, we'd say, and 2:20 is when it's going to be crossing, depending on which part of US 82 in Pickens County, Alabama, that they are traveling. So we know a lot of folks do go back and forth between either Reform and Tuscaloosa or Columbus and Tuscaloosa. If you know some folks that might be out there on the roadways, call them. Your phone call could be a lifesaver within the next 20 minutes, likely crossing that roadway there. Let's give you a relative time now, how many minutes away. And at this point, I would put that now down to about 8 to 10 minutes away in Gordo. 8 on the short end. We always want to assume short, not give you that extra minute of hope. We need to be at that tornado safe place now. No debris on this at this instant here, and storm track Doppler radar continue to show what is an overall shrinking thunderstorm that's getting more shrouded in this rainfall that's messing with the circulation there. Those are good things, by the way. We want it shrouded in rainfall in the fact that it's messing with the way that circulation is going. That's actually, believe it or not, a good thing. We always want to be able to see it, but if there's rainfall that can cut it off, obviously that's what we want. So I now show, and we'll bring it in super close here for a moment, near Sellers Road, south of Alabama Highway 86, southwest of Gordo, a circulation, I'll move it forward just a little bit, that could potentially re-strengthen to produce a tornado. We do believe we've at least briefly had this produce some damage near the Alabama-Mississippi state line. We had storm track Doppler radar detect that debris. We don't know exactly what that is, but we should hopefully get more information from the newsroom here within the next few minutes. New scan has it pretty much exactly where we showed it a moment ago there, south of Alabama Highway 86. Rainfall pretty much matches that. We do not have tornado debris, so that's kind of your trifecta, looking at making sure we know exactly where it's at and exactly what it is doing at this moment here. So let's reset here for a moment. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Joel Young, John DeLusick, Emily Leonard continue to get ready to possibly bring us a little bit more information here in a minute on a tornado warning for Pickens County, Alabama. Rotation that could develop into the tornado very soon is where we're at. We've previously had debris, but we need to be taking this seriously because these storms will have a tendency to reproduce damage on multiple occasions. With that information here, we do want to bring in our meteorologist Joel Young, who does have a little bit more information at this time. And Joel, what are you hearing at this moment?
Well, Matt, good news is, first off, we've spoken with the EMA director in Noxubee County, reporting as of right now, no damage has been reported. Now, also getting word from Pickens County, Emergency Management Director Lakeitha Bell, reporting as of 2:04, just a few minutes ago, there was no damage reported there either. Now, that being said, we're seeing, we have at least gotten word of a tornado touchdown there in that portion of the county. We don't know if that means that maybe it happened in a rural area away from any buildings. We're not sure about that, but at least we do not at least as of now, no damage reports out of those 2 counties.
Okay. I mean, that's all we can ask for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the longer that's the case, maybe it's forever, maybe it's another 10 minutes, but at least at this point here, we're not getting the opposite.
That being said, we have Bryce Jones, who has been headed in that general direction. He says he's on 388 now. Got to look a little closer and see exactly where that is, heading that direction. Should they keep going? We don't have any solid evidence of any damage. Do we want to keep him that way, or do we want to?
I am continually concerned about where the cap is holding, and we've talked about this. It's a word we throw out. It's warm air aloft that's holding the storms from developing more. The storm near Ackerman here is showing a little more organization, but it has not broke through. So it's rotating, but it has to break through and get tall enough for that rotation to then stretch and pull itself to the ground. So that's why we're not on this at this moment there, because of that fortunate thing. I don't want to get him too out of position for these. If we do not have reports of confirmed damage, I don't want to go chasing a few trees that have been topped off. So I would say we keep him to where he's available to make sure we can get back and get on these storms and track them through the Golden Triangle. Does that make sense? And where's Stan at this instant? Let's find out where our Stan Dorr with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters is. I bet he will be probably a little bit closer to some of this damage we have here, as he's kind of having free reign to go where he needs to go to help keep your family safe. So as we show this again in Pickens County, Alabama, current time is 2:09. Our circulation weakening. Thankfully, as it's now along Alabama Highway 86, it's fairly broad at this moment here. Our storm is kind of stretching from northeast to southwest. That's actually a good thing. That tells us that the rotation on it is now shifting and it's becoming more outflow dominant. So good news there. Also, another piece of good news I do want to pass along. We are back live on the WTVA news and weather apps. We got whatever blip that was fixed and working again. So we apologize for that interruption. We should be good the rest of the way here as we look toward this. As far as the whole viewing area is concerned, as we mentioned, gradually a lot more fuel down here. A lot less farther north, well, a lot of fuel everywhere, but that cap holding, at least to this point, to the north and west. And that said, these storms are still capable of things, and that things in this case could potentially be up here closer to Fulton and Red Bay, more hail. Though this does not look impressive on Storm Track Doppler radar, and I don't know if we had the chance to swing that Tupelo tower cam around back to the east. I can go ahead and do that here really quick. We're looking here, Tupelo, and we're 177. Yeah, there we go. We'll go east. No good viewpoint on that. Okay, well, we're not going to worry about that too much. But you can definitely see all the humidity and stickiness out there at this point. But this one here, little rotation, but it's the kind that would most likely be difficult to get down to the ground. So we are also watching a severe thunderstorm warning for Lowndes County, though at this point here, it looks like that one that we were tracking, we had Bryce kind of looking at, has weakened and lifted northward. Good news. You want to continue some good news here for a moment? It does look like the National Weather Service in Birmingham has gone ahead because of the weakening on this storm and canceled our tornado warning that we have down here for Pickens County. So immediately what we're going to do is we're going to send ABC, Fox, and MeTV back to regular programming. So ABC, Fox, MeTV back to regular programming. We're going to look over the other thunderstorms and we'll probably send NBC back here in a minute. So for those of you on ABC, WLOV, and MeTV, if something changes, we will bring you more continuous weather coverage here. Keep it here for the best coverage. Okay, so while they go back, let's make sure that we don't have something else. We're going to take a moment here and we're going to assess these other thunderstorms as we look back here toward Louisville. We don't have this breaking into the pinks and purples high enough. It is not strong enough. It's not truly breaking that cap. Good news, that one's in good shape at this moment here. Ackerman, same thing. The colors aren't as bright. And though, yes, this has some rotation, it has just a little bit of a kind of hook on the backside here. It's going to take more than that to produce a tornado. That's not breaking through the cap. That's a good thing there. And as we kind of look back here towards Houston, where we do have our meteorologist Chelsea Brown, and I don't know if her audio is, or if she's able to get something up there at some point, but she's been watching these thunderstorms, and we will talk to her. The reason I want to talk to her on this, if we could, Chelsea, visually, how do these look to your eye? Because we have too much cloud cover here to see that far south. I mean, do you think these have a chance of breaking that cap?
Well, looking at them right now, they just look like typical thunderstorms, maybe a little bit of that low-lying scud cloud there. And really just a few minutes before this storm did come through, we were seeing a lot of sunshine. So, of course, you've said it many times today that sunshine really not good news. And when we are talking about this severe weather, because that does build to that instability. But right now, what we are seeing in the city of Houston, really just dark clouds. We do have rainfall really up to our northwest, and then some more of it really just to our south in the Woodland area. Right now, all we're seeing is maybe a little bit of low scud cloud, Matt.
Can you hear me? Okay. Chelsea, I want to talk to you for a moment here. High-based, I mean, last week when we were looking at this, they were high-based, high-based storms. I mean, are the bases reasonable? Or are they high-based again?
They're pretty reasonable, a little high. You can definitely see they are higher than some typical of those really strong tornado-producing storms that we have seen before. They are definitely, yeah, Matt, they are a little bit high.
Okay, that's our meteorologist, Chelsea Brown. Keep watching on that. I appreciate that. The reason we have this jargon, we're having this talk about the base of the thunderstorm, it allows me to know the way these storms happen is you get warm, moist air, and something comes in, and typically it's that sunshine. It starts that pocket of air rising. And so the point at which it saturates, that's the point at which the cloud forms. The higher that is, the more difficult it is to get that rotation down to the ground. So if the base of the thunderstorm is what meteorologists or chasers call high based, it's difficult to get that rotation down. So as this does strengthen and continue to produce more rotation on storm track Doppler radar, it becomes difficult to stretch that rotation down if it's high based. So when does it transition again to something else we have to be more concerned with? If it can break through that cap, then what happens is this then is able to draw in on the moisture around it. But if the base is too high already, that tells me that even with breaking the cap, it might not make it. So because it's kind of that middle zone, we're still in that watching and waiting time frame on that thunderstorm as it continues to kind of move toward the north and east there. Okay, hopefully that makes a lot of jargon, but hopefully that makes sense. So let's kind of do a one-over on this and tell you where we go from here. We have a tornado watch in effect until 8 p.m. This is defined by the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma as a particularly dangerous situation. We don't put out these watches. The government does through that arm of the National Weather Service. The reason they've issued it is because if tornadoes form, and it's easy to jump past that if, but if tornadoes form, they will cause damage, they could be long-lived, and they could be significant. We don't expect a lot of tornadoes today, but if they form, they will be strong and could cause significant damage. So I want to make sure that we have that caveat there, and that's the reason why we're preparing and we're praying that we don't end up with something worse than that. So on Storm Track Doppler radar, what Joel has mentioned over and over again, we're watching back toward Greenville. This is kind of our zone back here. You see how this is a whole bunch of nothing at the moment here? This is what we want to see. Because if I compare that then with what our storm tracker model has, do you see how we have more storms out there, right? This is also picking up on a few thunderstorms stronger down southern part of our area. So this will give you an idea of where the model is right and wrong at its very beginning. It has these stronger. And this projection comes in every hour, so this discussion we're going to have is happening as I look at the latest on what this is producing. It's keeping the primary circulations in this zone down here, as far north as you can see, almost Houston there, Woodland toward Amory, one of those, 4 p.m. or so. But the fact you get these long strips, that means long-lived circulations where they form that could try to produce tornadoes. What I don't see for the northwestern, really third of the area is I don't see any of those red stripes forming. That is an adjustment from even an hour ago where projection had those storms that have not formed in the Delta forming and becoming those tornado producers. So as I want to make sure that I don't miss where these storms that it has that back here that it'll eventually move west of Starkville and close to Aberdeen. As I look at those, the one that has their Eupora, that's the one kind of farthest north and west. Okay, so that one, it shows a long-lived rotation, then maybe what could be a rotation that produces a tornado. So as I back this up, I know it's a lot of back and forth, as I back this up, that has that storm right now forming back around Jackson. So let's see what real life shows us as opposed to model. Models are always a little bit wrong, even the best of them. What do I not have in Jackson right now? I don't have a storm there. So All of that to say, if one wants to package up some good news for some folks, let's say this. While model projections still north and west of the Natchez Trace have some circulations of concern that could be tornadoes, real life is not corresponding with that because that cap, that warm air layer aloft is holding to this point. There's no guarantees it holds all the way, but at least I can tell you some good news back there and maybe as far north and west as Starkville and Amory here. But that's something that we're still at the early end of this at 218, and so we still could see that change in the future. But clearly, that's where we're watching things at this moment. As we reassess the 2 or 3 biggest storms that we're watching to see if they are going to bust through and become more significant. Louisville, no significant circulation. Noxubee County, no significant circulation. I'm watching back northwest there of the Starkville area, that storm. We don't have this really high enough. We're not getting into the pinks and the darkest colors there. This does have some rotation that has a little bit to do with the angle from the radar. So we will have to watch that as it potentially matures into something more. So I'm going to give you 2 storm tracks, and then we're going to go ahead and send you back to regular programming and then cut in as necessary going forward. So this one here, weak at this moment. Could it strengthen? Yes. It's one of 2 that we're watching that greatest potential at this instant here. Crawford 238, Mayhew at 250, Columbus in about 302, New Hope there at 307, Caledonia at 322. And then the other circulations kind of on the west side of Starkville. There's just got a bunch of different spots there, so the time is very relative. But at that other one, we're looking at Adden 221, Salome there 241, Derica in 302, Columbus Air Force Base 304, Aberdeen 308, Caledonia 316, and there are some overlap on those 2 thunderstorms and depending on the way in which they end up moving. So we're going to continue to monitor things. We'll bring you updates as necessary. Tornado Watch continues until 8 p.m. Maybe we'll get lucky and make it all the way through this without anything more significant than what we've had in Pickens County. We do have crews working to find out more information on what's going on down there. Expect updates at the very least on WTVA 9 News at 4 or earlier, online at WTVA.com or here if tornado warnings warrant it. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Keep it here for the best coverage.
Here's something to chew on. This Civil War baby would grow up to create a chewing gum.
This has been a severe weather update from the WTVA Severe Weather Authority.
1200.